Gevurot. Gevurot, the word gibor means powerful, strong. Ezehu gibor. Who is the powerful person? Who is the strong person? So that's the theme. That's the theme of this blessing. I would like to address it from the point of view of the Ten Commandments. Surprise, surprise. The first commandment is, I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt. There is a God, and God cares, and God is good. He's there, he'll help us. It's the first blessing that we saw is also Gomel Chasadim Tovim. God, you do good deeds. We recognize that. We're living in your world, and there's so much of your chesed, your loving kindness. This bracha really deals with the second commandment. The second commandment is, do not have any God before me. And a God, who are people's gods? They are who people turn to find blessing. They are who people recognize who are ultimately in control and all-powerful, and even people, even those things which are authoritative. So when we look for what we need in life, our deficiencies, our lacks, our needs, our wants, we try our best to fulfill them, but we also recognize that we need what's called this beautiful Aramaic phrase called siyata deshmaya. Siyata deshmaya is Aramaic. It means help of heaven, heaven's help. We all need blessings in our lives. And by the way, when you see on a piece of paper that people write in the top, in the Hebrew, Beit Samach Daled, it means be siyata deshmaya, with the help of heaven. All right, this with the help of heaven. Very nice. Okay. There are many powers in this world that seem so powerful that we even wonder whether there's a power greater than that. And this blessing really addresses those powers. Okay, let's start. Ata, you. So we start again, speaking directly to God. Here we are. The creator, the perfect being who created this entire world, we have the merit to stand in front of, and God, I'm speaking to you. Ata Gibor, I recognize that you are powerful. God, you are Gibor, you are powerful. La'olam. La'olam. What does the word olam mean? La'olam va'ed is used for eternity, for time. Ha'olam means the world. So all of creation, time and space get called olam. God, we live in a world defined by time and space. You are the Gibor Adonai, right? The Lord. You're the master of all, who was, who is, and will be. We recognize that you are the ultimate power. God, we recognize you as the ultimate power of this olam. Just parenthetically, the word olam, says the Maharal of Prague, is related to the word helem. Helem means to be void or to be hidden. La'alem is to hide, to mute. God, we recognize a world. God, when the Kabbalists say, when God made the world, he made a space within himself. He tzimtzum, he retracted and made space for the world. That's why we don't see God. That's why he's not so apparent, because it's a world, the world hides God. Obviously, for the purpose of giving us free choice. Right? If God was so evident and so overpowering, we wouldn't be able to choose. We would be forced to do the right thing. Now, there's just enough for us to know that we could go either way. So that's okay. God, we recognize that in this world, it's you who is the ultimate power, the Gibor. What is the one thing that confounds us all, that we are hopeless against, that unfortunately, so many of us have close experience with recently death. And we turn around and we say, God, you're so powerful. Mechaye meitim ata. You can resurrect the dead. Chaim, mechaye, means to give life. You give life to the dead. Ata, you are. So you are the one who is able to resurrect the dead. There is nothing, there's no force, there's no power, there's no status or situation that God cannot overcome. And that the extreme of that is Mechaye Meitim, are the dead. And that's our fundamental belief that in the future, there will be a time. It's interesting when it will happen. Some say it will happen when Mashiach comes. When the Messiah comes, there'll be a resurrection of the dead. Some say no, only the tzaddikim, only the very righteous will be resurrected then. But then the whole world will be destroyed, rest for 1,000 years, and then the world will be resurrected with all those people that merit to be in the world to come. So God, we are, even in the face of death, we recognize you as having power over that. And because of that, Rav Lohoshia, you are Rav, much power, many Lohoshia, to be able to save us, right? Many times we need to be saved. We're in difficult situations. God, you have many ways. The Talmud says, there are many messengers. There are many ways that God can save us, right? So, okay. Now, during the winter, between Sukkot and Pesach, that's the winter, we turn around and say, Meshiv HaRuach, we add now, God, you are the one who causes. Ruach is the wind. Meshiv HaRuach is, you cause the wind to blow. Or Morid HaGeshem, and you cause the Geshem is rain, you cause the rain to fall. The Talmud says that there are 4 keys, there are 4 things which were never given over to human beings. We might never really find the ability to do these things. One of them is to resurrect the dead. Another one is to cause rain. I don't know where science is up to nowadays in terms of causing rain, but it's definitely not something that we have a handle on. The other 2 are Parnasa, a livelihood. That's something you can't force. That's something you can't guarantee, right? Law, I think the phrase says, Lo lechachamim lechem, or lo lenavunim. It's not necessarily the cleverest people that make the most money. It's not, right? To make a parnasa, and even to think of it in terms of, think about that there are 7 trillion people, 7 billion people in this world. Am I right? 7 billion or more, approaching 8 billion people. And all of us need nourishment. All of us need, every human being, actually, everything that is alive, all life needs nourishment from outside of it, right? None of us are self-generating. We need food, we need nourishment. God, we recognize that Mechalkel Chaim V'Chesed. Mechalkel is to provide kalkala. Right? In modern Hebrew, the kalkala is the economy, but it's the nutrients. God, you nourish, you provide food, Mechalkel Chaim, to all living beings. And think about it. It's not only humans, it's animals, it's plants. Everything in our alive world is being fed. And there is food, bechesed, with loving kindness. What's the loving kindness in the food? Is that there's so much abundance, that there's so much, variety, colors, textures, tastes. I mean, it's unbelievable when you go into the supermarket and you just see how much food and how many types of food and how many tastes and colors and textures and fragrances there are for us to live, right? It could have been we just have bread every day. On bread and water we could survive, but bechesed, God, we recognize that you do this with tremendous loving kindness. You provide us with our needs, and think it's not only the nourishment of food, that's the most basic, but it's clothing and it's shelter and what we need in order to survive. Then we go back and we recognize again, mechaye meitim, when you will resurrect the dead, barachamim rabim, with great mercy. And this is okay. So once again, mechaye from the word chayim, meitim, a meit is a dead, so you give life to the dead. Barachamim, mercy. Rachamim is mercy. Rabim, great, with great mercy. To be resurrected, for the dead to be resurrected, they need a merit. That's the Jewish view of life, right? Human beings are very special. Human beings are sacred. Human beings are special. Why? Because they have great potential. If a person never actualizes their potential, they don't become great. You're not great just because, right? You've got potential to be great, but you're not great just because. So that greatness is achieving, really, in the picture of Jewish life, some connection to God, morality, godliness, goodness. That's the entry into Olam Haba, the world to come. And we recognize, God, you've given us that challenge. Who can say that they have merited to be able to, in justice, go into the world to come? So we recognize that, God, your resurrection of the dead, you restoring, giving us eternal life, will be done, barachamim, with great mercy. Mercy always means it means lifnim mishurat hadin, inside of the letter of the law, beyond the letter of the law. God says, okay, I'll give you a little bit of slack. You did something good once, great, come in. And the world that we will experience there, this world to come, the reward will be so much more than what we would imagine would justly be rewarded. So we recognize that God's resurrection of the dead is done, barachamim rabim. Okay, then we go on and we say, okay, what are the other things you do, God? How do we recognize your gevura, your power? Somech noflim, you support the fallen. Noflim is actually the nofel is to the falling, not the fallen. Someone falling cannot support themselves, right? They've lost their footing. They need help. So God, somech, is to support. Somech noflim, those who are falling. In a bit of an abstract way, think about our world. We wake up and we think we're on flat ground and we think that we can just stand up because we can. But it's truly unbelievable to think we're on a little ball going through our universe at some incredible speed, turning around. And there's something called gravity, which balances out everything so that we can stand up and we don't fall, right? Go to the moon. It's not so easy. So we recognize, God, your power to just look at, we always do that. We look at God's involvement in this world in terms of nature, God as the creator of nature, the sustainer of nature, gravity, the world, the flood, everything that, and then the supernatural, that which goes beyond or under what is natural. Rofei cholim, God, you are the one who, Rofei is to bring a Rofei in modern Hebrew is a doctor. So you heal, chole is the sick. You heal the sick. And again, this can be done we could think of that in two ways. One is the knowledge that you've given us and the fact that within this world, there are cures. There are ways to heal, right? This vaccination, I mean, it's I don't understand it fully, but it's really quite an incredible thing to consider that we've actually been given the ability to see into our world something called RMNA, and we can inject that into people, and then when the virus comes, it knows that the virus is there and is able to attack it. It's just, the wisdom, the chokhmah, the intelligence is just unbelievable. And then, of course, no matter what we do for people who are sick, they always need a blessing. God, as it were, personally comes. He is engaged in our lives, actively engaged in our lives, bringing healing to the sick. Matir asurim, God, matir is to loosen, to free. Asurim means people who are bound. I know the translation here says prisoners. That's an example of someone that is bound. But again, someone in prison, someone that is bound, cannot free themselves. So God, we recognize that now the Talmud that said that there are 4 keys, I only mentioned 3. One is the resurrection of the dead, rain, livelihood, and the Gemara says giving birth. When the baby comes out of the womb, right? The baby is out of its mother. God, you are intervening there. Matir asurim. When it's when does the baby come? When God says it's ready to come, and the wonder of nature of birth happens. So anyone that's ever done that, witnessed that, thinks about that, you can have intention for that as well. Okay. Umekayim imunato leshenei afar. God, you keep. Mekayim is to establish, or keep. Emunato. Now, it's a very interesting word. Obviously, the root word over here is emunah. Emunah. What is emunah? We translate it loosely as faith. But here, it seems to be that we are, first of all, faith, I thought, was our belief in God. Does God have faith in us? What is God's faith? We are referring here to God as having faith. So it really means being faithful, keeping his promises. God, we recognize that you establish, you keep your promises. And what we're referring to here specifically is lishenei afar, to the ones who, lishon is to sleep, afar is the dust, to those that sleep in the dust, meaning in the grave. God, you have a promise to that. Now, that really is, to me, that's what Jewish faith is about. Jewish faith, when we think about our world and everything that's lacking in it, we need to recognize God has promised us a better world. And the faith that we have is not so much whether God exists. We are privileged people. We, as a people, we experienced God firsthand. He took us out of Egypt and he spoke to us at Sinai. We know God. I don't need to believe that you're there, unless Zoom's playing some very clever games on me. I can see you. I can see you on this. I know that you're there. Faith means, are you going to be faithful? The element of the unknown is whether or not you will keep your promises. Right? When people get married, there's a traditional blessing. You should have a bayit ne'eman b'Yisrael. You should have a faithful home amongst the Jewish people. What's the faithful home? When any relationship, what's really at the heart of it, what makes the relationship work, is the fulfillment of commitments. Right? We make commitment, and any relationship has its commitment. We make those. God has committed to us. Where did God, by the way, where has he promised us that he will resurrect the dead? So it's a fascinating idea. It seems to be, says the Talmud, such an important idea that anyone who denies it has the status of a heretic, right? To be Jewish, to believe in God and not to believe that one day there'll be a resurrection of the dead is missing the boat. The system can't work without that. So the Mishnah says, so, but why is it not in the Torah? If you read the book of the Torah, it's not there. So the Talmud says it's not there obviously. If you just read it simply, no, I don't see the resurrection of the dead. But if you read carefully, you will see that it is hinted to. It's there. Where? In the second parsha of the Shema, it says, and if you keep all my mitzvot, go in my way, you'll dwell on the land that I've promised to give. Laman yirbu yameichem v'yamei b'neichem, in order that your days be extended or long. Al ha'adama, on the land, asher nasati lahem, which I have given, which I will give to them, to the forefathers. So the Talmud says, you see that God will give the forefathers the land. That's where it hints to in the Torah that there will be a resurrection of the dead, because God never gave them the land. When did God give them? Right? They never had the land as theirs. God will do that when Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all their children, and all those who merit the world, then they will be given the land. So that's the promise. God, we need that. Our faith in God is, we need that God will fulfill his promise to us as essential for our faith. That's really what we are in relationship with. And a lot of that goes back to the fact that we recognize God, okay, you're our God. You're the one who's ultimately in control of you. Okay. Mi chamocha, who is like you, Ba'al Gevurot, master of all powers. Umi dome lach, and who is similar to you, Melech, the king, Meimit u'mechaye. God, we recognize at the end of the day, you cause death, right? The Lord has given, the Lord has taken. Blessed be the name of the Lord. God, we recognize that death is a decree that you made, you brought into the world as a consequence to the choice that Adam and Eve made in the Garden of Eden. There was no death before that. But as a consequence of that original sin, God, you brought death into the world. But we also recognize that it didn't kill the world. It didn't kill us ultimately. Mechaye, you give life even after death. U'matzmiach Yeshua, there is always, the word matzmiach, tzemach, is to grow, is to sprout. redemption can sprout. There is an organic, God, we recognize in this world, your system, your creation has within it the ability that redemption should sprout, should come from it, from within. V'ne'eman ata lachiyot meitim, you are faithful, God, to resurrect the dead. And then we just we finish with the words Baruch Atah Hashem, blessed are you, God, which we discussed at length last time. Mechaye Amitim, you give life to the dead. You resurrect the dead. So just a last comment is that the Abu Draham, if you ever went to Tzfat, there's a beautiful shul with blue paint. And that shul was the shul of the Abu Draham back in the, I think the 15th, 16th century. He was a great rabbi. And he says, there's a lot of repetition here about Mechayei Meitim, about the resurrection of the dead. And he says there are really 3 times we experience it. One is what we know, what we've been talking about, the resurrection of the dead in the future. The other one is every night we go to sleep, we are somewhat dead, right? The Talmud calls sleep a 60th of death. It's a like as if experience of death. So every morning when God restores our soul to us, when He gives us our consciousness, we're back to life. That's an aspect of Mechaye Meitim. God gives us that. And also the world around us, we go through a winter, it's dry, nothing's growing, the trees look dead. The rain comes and Mechaye Meitim, God gives life. So constantly we're in a a very dynamic world where life is appearing and then disappearing, and then appearing again and disappearing. God, we recognize you are the master of this entire creation, and behind it, it's your power. You are the ultimate power, and therefore the one that can fulfill all our needs, wants, and desires. Okay, we'll see you on Wednesday for the next blessing. Any questions? Yes, Uri.
Struck by the contradiction between the Torah neglecting life after death and the Shemonei Esrei emphasizing it. And I take that contradiction to be a function of the fact that the Torah is God speaking to man, whereas prayer and tefillah is man asking things of God or speaking to God. Is that a fair explanation?
It might be, if I understood how it answered the question. So why, when God speaks to us, does He not make it clear that there's a world to come, that there will be a resurrection?
Because it's not central. Because it's not central to His concerns. It's central to the concerns of man. Our future, our immortality is ever present as a concern to us, but not necessarily to God.
Okay, I understand now. Thank you. Yes.
Otherwise, I'm struck by it.
Yes, you should be. It's a really glamoring, facet of Torah. Why, listen, every great Jewish thinker put his mind to why the Torah does not really discuss the world to come. Some of the answers I've seen are because the Torah is for this world. The world to come is a different realm. The language would not work. It would not really describe what's there, and therefore, and it's a Torah of truth. So therefore, it cannot really speak about
it. May I just say something? I'm not convinced about this giving life to the dead and the resurrection. Can we have a discussion on that at some further stage?
Just look, Joe Biden's going to be president on Wednesday.
Yes, I know. That's the other thing that I wanted to ask you. Could you switch your time?
Oh,
I'd like to watch the inauguration, and I'm sure other people would like to too.
what time is the inauguration?
Well, I don't know, but it's
Let's find out, and if there's a conflict, maybe do that. I see Linda's not.
I thought your reference.
To change our time.
I also would like, just for an amusement thing, to watch Trump's exit, which is going to be early.
Well, you can do that on your own time.
Because apparently he's asked for a fanfare at 21 gun salute.
We'll leave that out of our class. Fine.
Right,
I don't want to keep people too long.
It's not in the thing, but I'd like to watch it.
Fine. Okay.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It'll be repeated.
Fine.
Okay. But the resurrection.
See you on Wednesday. Yes, we could devote more time to that.
Can we spend more time to it and how life is given?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone. See you Wednesday. Wednesday, unless we change. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.